Morning. Today is Tuesday, April the 12th, 2016. It's 10 a.m. It is my pleasure to call to order the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance Board of Funeral Directors and Embalmers. Ms. Lisa Mosby, would you please call the roll?
Dennis Bridges. Here. Mark Cawthorn.
Here.
Robert Davis. Here. Jeff Duffer.
Here.
Robert Helms.
Here.
David Neal.
Here.
Charles Rahm.
Here.
Mr. President, all board members are accounted for.
Thank you, Ms. Mosby. Moving on to the
Motion to approve the agenda is printed. Second.
motion by Mr. Rahm, second Mr. Helms. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. On to the minutes.
Motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Helms, second by Mr. Rahm. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, presentation of the agreed final order. Ms. Robin Ryan.
Good morning. I am one of several litigation attorneys here, and except for the fact I believe we have an order you can agree with, you would be hearing a hearing this morning. The matter before you was going to be heard today, but the attorney for the respondent and Mr. Gribble and I looked at all the facts and all the circumstances and have fashioned what we believe is a very good result for this particular matter, which results in a 6-month suspension, results in him not having any, the respondent, not having any communication or relation to anything in the funeral board business, although he is a minister and he, of course, can still officiate at burials. He can also oversee any type of construction, because apparently there might be some new funeral boards being built. The facts in the case were tight, which means that I couldn't tell you that absolutely we could prove everything or absolutely we couldn't prove everything, but I do believe this is a good result for the matter. He will also pay a civil penalty of $1,000 and the pending court costs, which are $200. And I'm asking today that you will agree to this approval and approve of it, and if it is agreed on, then I will draft a final order for the signature of Mr. Neal, and that will close and resolve the matter. Anybody have any questions for me? While you're reviewing, let me explain that should you not agree today, of course, there will be a hearing, although frankly, at this point, knowing what you know, I believe the attorney would ask for it to be before an administrative law judge only. It would be his right. But if you don't agree with it, we can go forward with a final hearing in it as well.
Motion that we approve the recommendation.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Rahm, a second by Mr. Helms. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much. I
Thank
will
you.
prepare the final order for your signature and get that to you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
On to the legal report.
Good morning, all. Again, I'm Tony Glandorf. I'm the Chief Counsel for Regulatory Boards Division. The legal report today. I believe last time we met, a lot of you all had orientation that you had with administrative law judge, and I hope that was informative for you all. I do apologize that I had to leave early for you all that were there. I was summoned up to the legislature to go view some. Normally don't like to leave you all in the midst of training with an administrative law judge, but I
Give us a
hope
chance to talk about you.
that I appreciate it. I'm sure. Zach, you need to fill me in on a couple things I didn't hear. So I'm going to read the legal report for you all this morning, and if you need to stop me at any time, please stop me, and I apologize if my cadence is off in reading and I start to bore you all, but I will do my best that I can. And again, I said this previously at the last meeting, but if at the recommendations, if you all feel that you would like to change an authorization for a recommendation, feel free to please voice your opinion or whatnot as to the amounts of civil penalties where I've recommended them. I really am not. I'm not opposed to listening to you all about how you would like to change those authorizations and whatnot. So we'll start off the first and second one. Those are cases 2015-014-901 and 2016-006-081. These are both the same respondent. The paragraphs here below will separate the two complaints, so we'll be talking about two things. First, the complainant here states that the respondent was using her name and embalmer license without the permission to file multiple death certificates. The complainant stated that aside from her apprenticeship with another funeral home, she never worked in the funeral industry, and approximately 88 fraudulent death certificates using the complainant's information were filed. The complainant applied for a job with the respondent and provided the manager with a copy of her funeral director's and embalmer's license, which we believe is how they had the number. During the investigation, respondent claims that the complainant worked at respondent establishment. However, when she separated her employment, the respondent destroyed her employee file due to the concern for her personal information. Respondent admits that there's no evidence to refute the complainant's allegations that she never worked at the establishment, and further, the investigation concluded that the certificates, death certificates, were completed by the manager before ever giving them to the embalmers to review. The next paragraph is on the second complaint. In this complaint, the complainant is a wholesale supplier of caskets and vault. This company regularly sells merchandise to the respondent and allows the respondent 30 days to pay. The respondent ran up a bill. Charged a bill of over $10,000. Salesman for the complainant called to collect, and the co-owner for the respondent said that he would meet the salesman next day with a check for $5,000, which is the amount that was overdue. The complainant attempts to contact respondent never was successful, so a salesman went there and picked up 3 caskets, which left a balance of $7,754 remaining. The respondent actually submitted, this is a respondent for both these complaints, submitted their official letter saying that they're closing their establishment. The respondent did not respond to this complaint. Though they've sent their letter closing their establishment, they still have an active license. I recommend that we have a revocation of that license and authorize a formal hearing if they don't agree.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rom, a second by Mr. Bridges. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Number 3 and number 4, these are both the same respondent, same as before. The separate paragraphs separate the separate complaints. This is case number 2016-003731 and 2016-011731. Here, this was a routine examination where several issues with the general price list and casket price list were listed. And I'm going to list 10 things here, and I'm just going to try to tell you these are little snippets, so if I start to confuse you, I apologize, but I'm just going to go through what we found. The high-end range of caskets on the casket price list is inconsistent with the general price list. B, under the direct cremations, the high to low-end ranges do not correspond with the casket price list. C, on the general price list, under the direct cremations with container provided by the purchaser, this is inconsistent with the casket price list. D, on the general price list under direct cremations with an unfinished wood box, the box needs to be included on the price list. E, on the casket price list under alternative container with an unfinished wood box, the box needs to be added to the casket price list. F, on the general price list under direct cremations with a cardboard container, the price is inconsistent with the casket price list. G is on the general price list under immediate burial with container provided by the purchaser, needs to be added to the price. H, on the general price list under immediate burial with container provided by the purchaser, needs to be added with the price. I, on the general price list under immediate burial with cardboard container, the price is inconsistent with the casket price list. And J, on the casket price list under immediate burial with unfinished wood casket, the name of the casket must be added with the price. Price list now is inconsistent with all wood caskets. Respondent did not respond to this complaint. And also there was a second complaint here where a complainant, I believe someone in the industry, sent in proof that the respondent advertised in the 2016 edition of a local magazine. The advertisement depicted 2 people, One was depicted as a licensed funeral director, and the other person standing next to him was an unlicensed individual, but under his picture, he was noted as a non-licensed funeral director, which we thought was misleading and confusing to the public. I recommend for number 3 regarding the inconsistencies with the prices of the general price list and the casket price list, a consent order for $1,000 and authorization for a hearing. There were 10 instances that we found that were in violation there. And number 4, a consent order for $250 for non-responding, for no response, and instructions on misleading advertising regarding the non-licensed funeral director and authorization for a formal hearing.
Yep.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Helms, a second by Mr. Rom. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Number 5, this is case number 2015022571. It has a large paragraph here, but I'd like to summarize it by stating here that the complainant states that they were overcharged for a prearrangement of a cost of $1,595. The complainant basically stated that they were charged twice. Both charges were $1,595. That they had difficulty generally with the respondent in receiving a refund of the $1,595, though they were made assurances over several weeks that it would be refunded. It finally was refunded, and they did receive back their $1,595, but they had a very long complaint as to the manner in which they were treated, about the frustration getting the refund and whatnot. But we did find at the end that they did receive their refund. So you see the history there. Our recommendation was to close with a letter of warning about holding excess funds. What we saw is that it appeared it was with the charging company about getting that refunded back and forth. So assurances were made, and I think the complainant was concerned as to exactly when that was going to be refunded back, but it was.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cochran, second by Mr. Rom. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I'll just give you number 6. Okay, this is 2016003841. Here there was a routine inspection on the latest. This is an establishment. They had a routine inspection, and they examined the latest crematory inspection report on current crematory license was not available for review. The respondent has submitted proof of the license and submitted that during the examination they were current at the time of the last cremation. They have recently changed the company they contracted with to do cremation services. Also, a statement of funeral goods and services selected contract could not be produced on the correct paper size. Respondent submits that the fax copy machine was broken on the day for the inspection, but has since replaced it. The establishment's general price list did not have alternative containers listed under direct cremation on the casket price list. This casket price list has been updated with an alternative container listed. The inspection also, and I highlighted this, inspection found that the public areas of the establishment were in a bad state of disrepair with a leaking roof, and there needed to be general cleaning. The respondent stated that this chapel, which is the establishment, is used only for embalming, that the public accesses have been closed while the roof is being repaired. The legal staff here spoke with the respondent on April 8th, and they could not give us a time of estimate for the repair, but they've received a verbal quote. They say a verbal quote of $15,000 to repair the roof. So this was a funeral establishment that has some serious repairs to be done upon it, and they really just generally aren't open so much to the public with this location right here. Our concern was the state of disrepair, so our recommendation was a consent order for $1,000 to be reduced down to $500 if they can provide us with a signed contract for the repairs that need to be done within 45 days or authorization of a formal hearing. This is because they they said they have a verbal quote for $15,000, however, in order to have assurances that this is actually going to happen in a timely fashion while they're license, we recommended that we put this in the consent order, that they actually contract for services and show that to us.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Duffer, second by Mr. Helms. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Number 7, this is case number 2016003861. Here, there's a routine, this is actually owned by the same one as we just saw. So number 6 and number 7 are slightly related. I don't mind telling you that because you're going to see some of the same statements that I just read, which there was a routine examination about the crematory inspection report or current crematory license, which was not available for review. The respondent has submitted proof that the license submitted during the examination was current at the time of the last cremation. They recently changed the contract with to do cremation services. Also, statement of funeral goods and services selected contract could not be produced on the correct paper size, as we said earlier. Respondent submits that the fax copy machine was broken. They have since replaced it. Here, the difference is here the establishment failed to complete the permanent ID tag on a casketed body with all of the required information. The respondent stated that the body was shipped to this location from California. The tag with all the needed information was attached before she left the funeral home for burial, as no other services were performed other than a private burial. The establishment's general price list did not have alternative containers listed on their direct cremation on the casket. This casket price list has been updated with an alternative container listed, and our recommendation was a consent order for $500 and authorization for the hearing regarding the permanent ID tag.
Motion to accept recommendation.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Rom, second by Mr. Helms. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next case, number 8, which is 2016007321. Here, there was also a routine examination that it showed that the respondent had failed to have current licenses of funeral directors and embalmers. The respondent submitted photocopies of the funeral director and embalmer's licenses for the manager, which were expired 9 months prior to the inspection. 4 other employees' licenses were presented by photocopy, all of which were expired. 1 expired 6 months prior, 2 expired 4 months prior, and 1 expired 1 month prior. Upon arrival, an unlicensed assistant was the only staff person present. After further investigation, the current licenses would have to be faxed to the main location, so there were current licenses. The examiner states that the photocopies of the current licenses arrived by fax a short time later, which remedied the issues previously shown. The respondent manager submits that this was an oversight on his part because they have 2 Tennessee establishments. The originals were kept at one location who they probably worked at, and then the copies were sent to another location that hadn't been updated with the current licenses. The examiner found that the cremation authorization form fails to contain the date of signatures of authorizing agents and dates of signature of the funeral director completing the cremation authorization. The respondent states that there were several directors who were work at this location, and this family regarding the deceased was seen by one of them. The family was estranged, and there were some infighting causing distractions on that day, and due to this they say that it was an oversight as to completing the form at the end of the arrangement and failing to put in dates. So the last thing is the only issue that we saw that had not been remedied, which was that cremation authorization form that failed to contain the date of the signatures. Given that, our recommendation is a consent order for $250 and authorization for a formal hearing.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Helms, a second by Mr. Cochran. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And the last one is number 9. It's case number 2016016061. Here the complainant states that the family had to pay out of pocket for funeral expenses because the insurance company did not pay off. Based on the insurance documentation from Supreme Burial Association provided by the complainant, the decedent was not one of the insured. The respondent stated that the complainant was not in charge of the arrangements or the financial expenses of the funeral of the deceased. We looked at this policy. It had been written, I believe, back in the 1940s, roughly, and this person was not listed on there. So We couldn't see how the funeral establishment had any liability or issue regarding this, so our recommendation is to close.
Second.
Mr. Rom, a second by Mr. Duffer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes the legal report for you all.
Moving on to the director's report, Mr. Robert Gribble.
Thank you, Mr. President. First item is a legislative update for this board meeting. Again, we have the different bills that, there's one that directly affects this board, and I checked on it yesterday, and based on my limited knowledge, I think it looks like it's going to become law. It's not all the way through the process, but bearing anything that's not out there that doesn't look like it's foreseen yet, it looks like it most likely will become law. That's Senate Bill 2534 and House Bill 2569. And the direct part that it affects this board is, it's been a long-standing policy of the board to allow someone who gets an associate's degree at a college accredited by the American Board of Funeral Service Education to only do 1 year of apprenticeship. Credit for your schooling, for your associate degree, and this just puts that into law and makes it clear. It doesn't change any practice, but it makes it clear. We were told by our legal people that need to be done, and so that's what this does, is for it as to how it directly affects this board. And those other bills, some of them are most likely will become law, and some of them will, go by the wayside. But if you want to go to the website, which is listed at the very bottom there for the legislative bill searches, you can look each one of them up and kind of see where they are in the process. Ones that are passed and enacted after the session is over with, we will do a notify to the people that are registered for notifications through the board website and send those to them. So if you're not registered, I would suggest you go to the funeral board website, which is funeral.tn.gov, and then up at the top, you can look and there's a place to receive notifications. And so if you want to register out for both the funeral and burial services, that's where we send any updates regarding legislation that's passed, and that way you would talk about it again at the board meeting when we get if and when we get a public chapter for it. The licensee report, this is a report of licenses administratively approved by the executive director pursuant to the board authority for the period of March 8, 2016 through April 11, 2016. You can see the different funeral establishments and the different individuals. Also, the closed establishment report, as Mr. Glandolf reported to you in his legal report, we did receive a notice of closing from a funeral establishment this past month. It's Arnold Road in Memphis. Disciplinary action report is going to look a little bit different to you today than what it did the last board meeting. The department has asked that we put these in Excel now instead of Word. Previously we put them in Word, and they're going to attempt to make it more consumer friendly on the website when they publish these each month, and I think maybe do a search where they can be searched and things like that. So it's still the same information, it's just in a little bit different format. But this is a report of consent orders administratively accepted or approved by the executive director pursuant to the board authority for the period of March 1, 2016 through March 31, 2016. Lastly is a number of complaints. We have a total of 31 complaints. 28 of those are against establishment, 2 against funeral directors or embalmers, and 1 against an apprentice. I'd be glad to answer any questions about anything that I've presented or any other questions the board might have if you have questions.
Ask for an approval for the director's report.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cochran, second by Mr. Rom. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. licensees?
President,
Individuals?
there are no individuals or establishments to come before you this month. We always put that there in case there's a last-minute opportunity to get a prospective licensee before you, but there are none to bring to you this month.
Any new business?
I had just one very quick
Okay.
thing. And really just to state for the record, this last month, actually an embalmer, a funeral director in my county, Mr. David Bull passed away. And I just wanted to state for the record that he was a credit to your industry and to this industry. He was kind of renowned in our area just for his ability to I mean, as you know much better than I do, a lot of times bodies will come to you maybe that we're in a bad situation or in a bad circumstance, and he was kind of renowned for making those presentable to the family, and that goes a long way, I think, for a family to be able to see their loved one that one last time the way that they remember them. And really just, he was exceptional at that. And like I say, very well known in the McMinn County, Monroe, Ray, and Meigs County areas. But just wanted to state that for the record, that the industry lost a very good person, a very professional person in the industry. And just, if there's no objection, just like to state that for the minutes.
Anything else? Move for an adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cochran, second Mr. Rom. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.